Hi, welcome to this week's Mindfulness Mondays. Today I am doing something a little bit different and I'm talking about one of the Yoga Sutras that has a great impact on my life and my philosophy, and hopefully it will help you as well. So if you're unfamiliar with what the Yoga Sutras are, they are a ancient text of 4 books teaching us more about the philosophy of yoga. So you might be more used to yoga from the perspective of taking a yoga class of physical asana. Hi Malia, thank you for joining. You might be more familiar with that introduction to yoga, and maybe your teachers have brought in some sutras to talk about. Maybe they haven't through class, that's okay. This is just a very basic introduction into one of them. If you're unfamiliar, it's totally accessible to anybody. And that's about it for the sutras. This is one of my favorite books, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And I also have inside the Yoga Sutras, and what I tend to do when I'm deep diving into one of the sutras, I read both. And I like to get multiple perspectives because everybody has something different to say about it. And the sutras themselves sort of give yogis more of a philosophical guideline of how to live our lives. That's where we learn. I went in and out. But these are good for philosophy, for learning how to approach life off the mat, because our yoga is very powerful on the mat, but it's most powerful when we take it off the mat and go into our lives with the knowledge that we learn from this practice. So that's just my brief take on the sutras. They're basically a philosophical guidebook for yogis. So if you're interested in deepening your practice, I highly recommend reading them. You can take a Yoga Sutra course if you know anyone offering one. If you're a teacher out there, you can shout yourself out in the comments. Please let me know. I'd love to support that. And yeah, they're just great way to deepen your practice, to learn more about the philosophy behind the practice, why your yoga teachers say certain things that they do during class, and just also just a great way to learn how to navigate life. These texts are ancient and they're still resonating with us today for a reason, because they're very wise, they're very helpful. So the one in particular that I want to go over today is from book 1. And it is Sutra number 33. So it is by cultivating attitudes of friendliness toward the happy, compassion towards the unhappy, delight in the virtuous, and disregard towards the wicked, the mind stuff retains its undisturbed calmness. So what this really means, the sutra, it's teaching you how to basically how to interact with people through your everyday life. So we all, no matter what you do, have to interact with people in this existence, in this world. And the Yoga Sutras know that. I think often when we think about yoga and yogis, we think of somebody in a mountain or in the woods or something, just like by themselves, meditating. And the Yoga Sutras know, even they know, these ancient texts, that that's not the reality of a true mindful existence. It is dealing with other people, it's dealing with this human condition, and it's not just removing yourself from humanity that's going to solve all your problems. So the sutra really boils down for you basically how to interact with other people, like generally that you would meet throughout your day and throughout your life. So the first one is friendliness towards the happy. And that sounds really easy on the surface, but that really means having feelings of friendliness and positive feelings towards those who are happy. And there are so many times when people actually struggle with this for various reasons. Maybe there's a little bit of jealousy or envy. We see somebody happy and we're, feel a little envious or jealous of that. So the sutras tell us, instead of giving into those feelings, and instead of like inviting in that comparison feeling between you and someone else, just being genuinely happy for somebody else's happiness, of feeling in your heart that, oh, like, great for them, I'm happy for them that they achieved that, they worked so hard, and just having general feelings of happiness towards, or friendliness towards those who are happy. So on the other end of that, you have people who are unhappy. And the next step that Patanjali gives us in the sutra is to have compassion for the unhappy. So that means to really, I think, tap into your empathy here. So there's a great video out there kind of teaching us the difference between sympathy versus empathy. And right now I'm on Instagram. If you're interested in it, you can send me a DM, or you can send me a DM. You can comment and I'll DM it to you. There's a really great video out there just explaining the difference between empathy and sympathy. And for me personally, that was something really that resonated with me, and that was really important for me to learn to relate to people, especially when they're going through something. So when we see somebody who's unhappy, that can make us uncomfortable, that can bring up, feelings of unhappiness in our own lives. And so often I find, just generally as a society, we're kind of like, oh, you're unhappy, like, I don't want to deal with that, like, I'll see you when you're happy. Like, we don't say that to people's faces, but I think that's just kind of what happens. I don't think that we always like look and if through an empathetic lens towards why someone's unhappy, and we tend to not know what to say, so we don't say anything, and we shy away and don't always delve into that. So what the sutras tell us to say is to have compassion. And I say also not just have compassion, I mean compassion's great. I say also to have empathy. So having empathy for somebody going through whatever they're going through in their life, and just being a listening ear sometimes can be helpful. And just knowing that it's not necessarily their fault, whatever they're going through. It's best to have compassion and understanding for the circumstances that led them there. Okay, and moving on. We also have our third one is delight in the virtuous, which is when we meet somebody who is particularly inspiring, has a virtuous nature. Again, kind of similar to friendliness with towards the happy. We similarly sometimes when you see someone virtuous, want to also take them down and, be envious of them, say they're undeserving. And instead, if we could say, this is what I really admire about that person, and uplift that and see where you can cultivate that in your own life, is how I take that segment of the sutra, is how to delight in the virtuous, is what they say, and or what Patanjali says. And I really take that to mean to notice what it is about that person that is so inspiring, and emulate that, cultivate that in your own life. All right, and the final one is disregard toward the wicked. So this one is extremely helpful, I find. So who is a wicked person? In these sutras, anyone can kind of, it sounds weird to say anyone can be a wicked person, but, sometimes we all grow at different rates. And a wicked person, according to the sutras and these teachings, is someone who just doesn't want to take advice, and they're kind of stuck in their ways, and, doesn't want any help or anything. So it's someone who, if you try to help, maybe they lash out at you. It can be someone who, if you've ever been in a situation where you're just like out in public and there's that person trying to like pick a fight with you, or trying to pick a fight with everybody, like that's the person who's always, something's going on and they're looking outward aggressively to do something about it, right? That's what I think of when I think of the wicked person. So what Patanjali says to do here, what our sutras say to do, is to have disregard for that person. Do not engage in that behavior. So while it might feel good in the moment, or you might want to in the moment, become angry as well, become destructive as well, that hurts you first. And what Patanjali wants us to do, what these Yoga Sutras are guiding us to do, is to keep our inner calm, our inner peace, no matter what. So getting angry over someone else's reactions or trying to change their reactions, trying to give them advice, isn't going to help us to keep our inner peace and our inner tranquility. So that is why we're told to have disregard or have indifference toward the wicked. So that person who's trying to get a rise of you, of just knowing that's who they are right now, at least that's who they are, they're going to try to get a rise of you, and just removing yourself from that situation, whatever that looks like. So not engaging, or engaging minimally or politely, is the way to deal with that last person. So these are very helpful tips. This whole sutra gives 4 really helpful tips on how to deal with people, how to interact with people, that I personally have found really as a great guide throughout my life. When I first read the sutras a few years ago, it really clicked for me, and it's something I think about a lot, especially dealing with the last one of, okay, what is the recommendation to do here? Okay, it is to disengage, to disregard the wicked here. And then same thing when someone has good fortune, to not feel that jealous, to not feel that jealousy, to feel happiness for them. And then also when someone is virtuous, to let that be an inspiration, to try to cultivate that, learn what they do and cultivate that in yourself. And then the last one, compassion towards the unhappy, is also very important, to be empathetic to our friends and not just be there for just the good times, to hear out people when they're going through things and just have a compassionate heart. Don't let it be cold, and don't let it be hardened. So I'll read the sutra for you one more time, just so we have it in our minds before we go. And the sutra is Book 1, Sutra 33. By cultivating attitudes of friendliness toward the happy, compassion for the unhappy, delight in the virtuous, and disregard toward the wicked, the mind stuff retains its undisturbed calmness. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this Mindfulness Monday, a little bit different this week, but it's fun to dive into these sutras sometimes. If you have any questions, feel free to comment now if you're live. You can comment on the recording, and you can send me a message. Happy to chat with you about the Yoga Sutras or about anything else. You can catch me online Wednesdays at 7:30 a.m. for a 30-minute yoga flow. That's $8, and you get a 7-day replay. I'm also launching something very special this week, a special holiday package. So if you'd like to be one of the first people to find out about it, sign up for my email list here on Instagram. The link is in my bio. If you're watching this somewhere else besides Instagram, because I'll post it in a few other places, on YouTube or Facebook, I'll just throw the link in the description. And on on TikTok, you can link to my Instagram to find it, or you can always send me a message on any of these platforms, and I'll be happy to send it to you. I hope you have a wonderful and mindful rest of your week, especially here in the States with Thanksgiving coming up. I wish you a very lovely and happy Thanksgiving. I hope that you think of something that you're grateful for this week and let that carry you through the week. Thank you, yogis.